For February 27th, we're talking about beauty and truth working together, about not dragging tomorrow's weight into today, and about the dangerous belief that you are somehow incomplete. These three readings pushed me to ask, what if you are already whole, already connected, already enough? Hi, I'm Candy, and I'm a mind body coach. I also use hypnotherapy, and I am deconstructing from evangelical Christianity. And I know how mindset shapes our behavior. So, in this series, I'm going to share my daily reflections from three different devotionals. The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo, and that one's a little more spiritual, non religious. Also, Jesus Calling by Sarah Young, which is a very modern Christian approach. And My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers, which is a very classic Christian angle. My goal is to help you see how each one of these devotionals or these day books might shape your mindset a little differently. And if you're into that kind of reflection, please like and follow for more. Let's get started. So for February 27th in the Book of Awakening, Mark Nepo talks about, the title is The Ropes and Wheels That Carry Us. And there's a quote by John Keats, which was, he was a young English poet, and he was dying of tuberculosis, and he wrote this ode on a Grecian urn. That was the name of the poem, and the last lines are, beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That is all you know on earth and all you need to know. Now, this young man was 24 years old, which is kind of sad to think about, but he stumbles on this truth, that beauty is truth and truth, beauty, or something profound. And Mark Nepo goes, are they the same? Deeply, I think not. Rather, like X and Y chromosomes, they make up fundamental elements of life that no one can do without. They are the yin and the yang of existence. One cleanses the wound while the other heals the wound. And I haven't had a whole lot of time to think through this one. But I do see something that I relate to. I think the truth does do some cleansing. It does sometimes when we just accept it and we stop resisting it and we just face what is really in front of us, the reality of things. There is some healing in that moment. Just that we don't have to resist it. We can just look at it, acknowledge it. And then seeing the beauty wherever we can find it, just even that comes out of harsh truth sometimes. I know that I've been through very, very hard things. And in those hard things, I've changed. And there's some beauty in that I don't know if I would have changed outside of those painful situations. I have no idea. But they changed me. And there's some bittersweetness in that. So what he's saying is, like, we need both beauty and truth, and they work together. So just something to think about today. In Jesus Calling, the message is about keeping your eyes on Jesus. When waves of adversity are washing over you and you feel tempted to give up, really it's because when you are almost feeling like you're going to get consumed by the circumstances, overwhelmed, it's because you're losing sight of Jesus. And the quote I pulled is, your gravest danger is worrying about tomorrow. And if you try to carry tomorrow's burdens today, you will stagger under the load and eventually fall flat. You must discipline yourself to live with the boundaries of today, which I think is somewhat good advice. Like, yes, if you're worrying about tomorrow, it's going to overwhelm you because tomorrow's out of reach. And trying to carry stuff that you don't even know what's going to happen, right? It's not helpful. And I do think disciplining yourself to live within the boundaries of today is a healthy thing to do. But the thing where I push back in this reading is that it's because you're losing sight of Jesus. Now, if you're losing sight that you are connected to Source, that could affect you. And I know that how I use Source, Sarah Young in this book might be using Jesus, but when it's on a specific person with a name, and it's at a being that we visualize. Let's not kid ourselves. When we think of Jesus, we think of a being, a man, separate from ourselves, that lived a long time ago or is in the clouds or, is nearby, but not that's something that we are a part of, one with. There's no separation. That when you lose sight of that you are not separated from source, yes, I think it's easier to worry and to kind of almost feel buried by your circumstances. But when you remember that you are connected to source, there is a peace that comes with that, and understanding that there is a power working with you. But when you put that on a being that's separate from you, that's where you stop relying on yourself. You're relying on something. You're relying on not something that you're one with. You are relying on some being outside of yourself, begging, and just imagining him. It just becomes an almost impossible task to, how do I lose sight of him? Do I keep my mind on him all the time? Do I have his picture plastered on wall? You know what I'm saying? And we don't even really know what Jesus looked like, but we know he wasn't white. I'll tell you that much. And so I don't think the gravest danger is worrying about tomorrow. I think the gravest danger is when we forget who we're connected to, who we are, and not just connected to. You are source. You are a reflection of source. One piece. No less, like my hand is no less part of me. It is me, but it's not all of me. It's the same thing. That kind of concept. So don't bring on tomorrow's worries for today. That's good advice. Live within the boundaries of today. But remember, you don't have to focus on Jesus. It's remember who you are. You are way more powerful than you realize. You are one with source. That's what I would say. Focus your mind on. And finally, for my utmost for his highest, he's talking about the impoverished ministry of Jesus. And he has this Bible verse at the top, John 4:11. Where then do you get that living water? Sometimes he puts verses at the top that I think it's totally taken out of context, but that happens in Christianity a lot. Anyway, so the quotes I pulled. Jesus doesn't bring anything up from the wells of human nature. He brings them down from above, which obviously anybody who's been in Christianity or evangelical Christianity, fundamentalist Christianity, probably Baptist, Southern Baptist at least for sure. There's nothing good in a human in that religion. So of course, Jesus isn't going to bring anything out from your human nature. It's disgusting. It's low. He's got to bring it from, out in the heavens. I think if anybody's been listening to this, if you've been listening to my rants on all this stuff, you know why I would be frustrated with this one. But then the next one is, the reason some of us are such poor examples of Christianity is that we have failed to recognize that Christ is almighty. He's basically saying we don't really believe that God can do anything. We think he can't help us in our situation. I don't remember ever feeling that way. Like, I always felt like God could help. I do remember getting to a point where deconstruction started because I had always been able to find things. I'd pray and they'd show up. And I remember losing this piece, this seatbelt piece that fell out, which was very weird. We had one of those where the seatbelt was attached to the roof of we had a Honda Odyssey at the time, and the middle seat it was attached to the roof, but it had this little piece that went with it when you hooked it to the lap belt. And I was taking my kids and some of their friends to a bowling alley, and the piece got lost somehow. So we couldn't use it on the way home. So one of the kids had to ride without a seatbelt, or they doubled up on one, I think. But I had looked for that thing. I spent over an hour looking. I looked on the ground. I looked all over in the vehicle, brought the car home, went out for hours looking. And I got so frustrated because I'm like, where could it have gone? Where could it have gone? I never found it. And that was like just a slight crack in Am I trusting in this being outside of myself? Because I was like, are you even real? Like, this is such a small thing that you could show me. And it's for the safety of my family. And you are not showing me where it is. And that pissed me off, to be honest. So I did believe God could. But in that moment, that's when the doubt happened, because he did not answer the prayer. And then the last quote was, the well of your incompleteness runs deep, but make the effort to look away from yourself and to look toward him. And I just thought it was a disgusting quote. The well of your incompleteness runs deep. And I disagreed completely. You are complete and whole. We need to uncover that and remember that. We're told we're incomplete. We're told in every ad that we are not enough. And this is just more of that garbage, dressed in Christianity, dressed with a cross and looking humble. And it's not. It's just more garbage, more you're not enough. And that doesn't ever truly satisfy us, because it's not true. The truth is, you are one with Source. You are completely whole. You are not sick. You are completely well. I'm not talking about physical body. You may have sicknesses going on that you're working with medical doctors. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you at the core. Your soul is well. It's not sick. And that needs to be uncovered rather than filled with something. You don't have a hole inside you that needs to be filled. You are completely whole. You need to uncover it, because it's buried under the belief that you are not enough, that you are incomplete, that you're somehow lacking, that you are somehow sick, that you're somehow depraved. None of that is true. And coming to that understanding really does help you find what you're searching for. To me, that was finding the kingdom of God, and it set me free. And I will never go back to the way I was. So that's today's daily readings. Do what you will with them, and have a good day. Remember, you get to decide what you devote your thinking to today. You might not be able to control every thought that comes in, but you can definitely decide what you entertain. And whether it comes from something I've said today or something completely different, choose wisely and set an intention that truly benefits you and those around you. And if you found any value here today, don't forget to like and follow. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and let's keep our minds on what helps us love ourselves and each other a little bit better every day.